What's up? Welcome in, Hoge and Jahns from the NFL Combine for another year. And the Fishman's here too.
The man in the middle.
Do you know that I told him this last night, on our CHGO show, I think it was just yesterday, like people were demanding the Fishman.
I got some fans over at CHGO.
They wanted to make a shirt.
Sometimes I wonder if I have more fans over there or if I have
on Hoge and Jahns. Well, what's going to go on the shirt?
They wanted like a merman with like Kevin's head on it.
I am there for that.
Maybe I prefer the Hoge and Jahns.
And I may order a full box of those.
And we have a guy named Eric who at DNVR who does all the graphics. Like the phenomenal shirt. Like he is so talented, and just the thought of him drawing that up, I was like, yes, let's do that, please.
Yeah, just do that and share that with us.
Yes. Then we could put it out there. He might do it. Yeah. Welcome in. We are here at the NFL Combine for, what is this, year 9 of this podcast? I think this is our 8th Combine, even though whatever. We're here. That's the point.
We're not in the Spring Hill Suites or the Fairfield Inn.
No, we've upgraded to Radio Row for the second year in a row. Kent is here. Kent Garrison does such a great job always producing the show.
Got a nice backdrop.
Look at the backdrop. We're starting to be professional.
Last year we did it with the bench press contest or the workout right behind us going on.
I think that was like 4 years ago, but yes.
Is that 4 years ago? Oh, wow.
It was definitely pre-COVID.
Wow.
Did you guys ever think about the fact that John Greenberg will probably write an oral history of the Hoge and Jahns podcast one day?
Why hasn't he already?
I think you guys need to, based on some of the ones he's written, you need to have some big drama and break up.
Yeah, we're too.
Maybe something like that.
Too much synergy here.
Yeah, you think you guys too much continuity. You guys are doing fine.
I can promise you that oral history is not going to be as entertaining as the Mac Yurko and Harry one. Okay, just right away. All right. Well, lots going on today here. Tuesday is always the busy day at the Combine in terms of just Bears stuff because Poles talks, Flus talks. There's other interviews going around and just stuff to discuss.
It's always been that way too.
Yeah, and then the rest of the week is more. We're going to hang out and learn some things. Learned some things last night a little bit too, and we'll share those with you along the way. What stood out to you guys, Kev? We'll start with you, just from Poles talking this morning.
Yeah, I think we were all curious how he was going to handle the Justin Fields stuff. He sees it all the talking heads, because it's funny. There's not actually a report. There's not even a rumor.
Yeah. Right.
This is just people saying the Bears should do X, Y, and Z.
According to him, there's not even a phone call from another GM.
Right.
If you believe it, I don't know. He said no one's called about Justin Fields.
I kind of believe him because I'm guessing teams, they have a feeling of what's going to happen.
You tell me the Atlanta Falcons haven't at least been just checking on the guy we should have drafted in the first place.
See, that's the team that I'd be very, very curious about.
Yeah, I don't. That surprised. I mean, I guess I believe him, but that surprised me that he said that.
Maybe they'll start calling today.
Maybe.
But I think that I was curious how they'd handle that. To me, I'm just I guess I'm hopeful and trusting in Ryan Poles that the communication with Fields is there, is constant. But all this is he's playing the game. He's playing the GM game and just trying to do his due diligence. And I think we can all agree, if you have the number 1 pick in the draft, you cannot not look at the quarterbacks. You cannot not think about every possible scenario because you have the number 1 pick. Yeah. And I think he kind of alluded to that, and I thought that was interesting. Again, I was just very curious to see how he was going to balance the field stuff.
Well, he wanted to try to – he's playing the GM game, as you called it. Every opportunity he had to, shut and lock the door. He would shut the door, and then he would try to open it up a little bit with the next question, and then it would be shut again. So there was a little bit back and forth. Some of that is just semantics, right? They're doing their due diligence on the quarterbacks like they have to because they have the first overall pick. That's just part of the process. But I like that they're keeping Justin Fields engaged in this process. Even more so than I thought they would. More communication, more contact, just over-communication to a certain extent. And I think that bodes well for his future with the Bears.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing. It just sort of opens the door to more talk about the possibility. Until he closes the door, until he slams it shut, he can't just close.
It,
it makes our lives more annoying.
Right. So right now he's got the door shut, but it's not locked.
Yeah, but at the end, I think we all agree, like, they're not trading him.
Yeah.
They're just not. So it's just, I guess my question is, if he had come out today and said, we're not trading Justin Fields, he's our guy, does that really affect the trade value at all?
See, I'm with you. I don't
think it affects it
does
at all.
Because if he comes out and says we really like a quarterback, well, then of course they're not going to trade the number 1 pick because they would.
Well, I think he wants. Well, going back to that GM game, he wants to create more intrigue. Like,
yeah,
you know what? Maybe Bryce Young was pretty good. He'll float that out there. You know, maybe that's a developing story or something to leak out there. Maybe C.J. Stroud does have something that Justin Fields can't do, just to create that interest, to stir the pot a little bit, because we know how this works, right? There's all sorts of back and forth, and this is lying season. It is, but you got to be engaged in that process to try to stir up the interest as much as you can for the first pick.
I guess the most important thing, right, is getting 2 teams to compete over that 1 pick.
Yes.
Whether it's Colts and Texans or Colts and Panthers, or you throw, who else? Raiders in there, whoever it is. You need them to think that the other one's going for that. So I guess, Johnsy, I do think that's a good thing you hit on. Like, there's this mystique there that if Chris Ballard's like, the Bears are actually thinking about going through with this. Is there something with quarterback X, Y, and Z that we're not seeing? Maybe. But as I said earlier, all this does is make us, have to do more work.
I'll tell you the one thing I like. I think the one piece of information, though, that he did give that would have gotten my attention if I'm a rival GM or I'm Chris Ballard or Nick Caserio, is we might trade the pick before the start of the new league year.
Yeah.
That gets your attention, I think, because it's like, oh, well, okay, who's going to be who's trading? Like, we gotta get our shit together. Like, we gotta get this in order, because if there's, like, just hypothetically the Raiders are ready to go make that move, don't the Colts need to be like, well, wait a minute, who are they going to get? Is it our guy? Who is our guy? We got to figure out who our guy is now. It just it could drive up the price a little bit.
It's more than due diligence. You have to start asking around. You have to start talking to your own contacts and sources with other teams to hear what the buzz is about which quarterbacks are really, beloved by certain teams. You got to feel it out. You want to play that clip real quick from Ryan Poles?
This whole combine event is about collecting information, because we still got to get back. We got to put our draft board together, tighten that up from the information that we get here, and that's really going to start to allow us to play the numbers game to see, what's possible, what makes sense for us.
If you decide to trade the pick, is that something you would want to do before or after the first wave of free agency?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are some scenarios that it might benefit us to move, before free agency, opens potentially. But again, when we get back with all the information that we've gathered from here, I think we'll have a better direction.
Is that just because it would give you a clearer view of what you need, or how would it be beneficial?
A clear view of what we need. And there's scenarios where you could, add players as well, potentially, which again gives you some clarity on what you want to do in the draft and free agency.
So, first of all, I don't think that was an accident that he was ready for that question and wanted to put that out there. Because, like I just said, I think it gets the other team's attention. It might have to speed this thing up. I think that the timing to me is very, very interesting. And we had Poles on later on our CHGO show today, and I asked him just to clarify that, like, there's no scenario in which you would make that trade this week, right? And he explained why no, because, like, let's say they're going to trade back to 5, and then they have 3 players they like, and then 2 of them end up failing their physicals this week. Well, now you move back too far. So they got to at least go through this week to gather those medicals. That's so important. But he did say, if we're going to make that move before the start of the new league year, it won't be too far after this week. Like, it could be next week. And then the advantage of that is, if you're acquiring more capital, that you might want to then trade for a player, that's under contract for another year that you want to extend. Like, let's just to make it easier to explain, like, let's say they do like T. Higgins. I'm just throwing out a random name at this point that could be available via trade. Wouldn't you want to get that guy before free agency even starts, so you don't have to then go waste money on another wide receiver that you might have to go after? So right. That's the advantage Poles is talking about in potentially making that move now. as opposed to waiting until mid-April.
Well, you're trying to balance the strengths of free agency against the strengths of the draft, right?
Yeah.
Like, can you now commit more to wide receiver or something in certain capacity? I'm just spitballing here, but that's what it is. It's the balance of who's available for free agency versus what you could do in the draft.
What if Daron Payne's available for trade? They just tagged him.
Tag and trades happen.
That happens. Like, maybe that's your 3 technique, and they just tagged them. So I'm just doing hypotheticals now, but that would be. You want to get that figured out as soon as possible, those key guys that they want to target.
One thing I like, sorry, Kev, pat you on the shoulder here since we're in person. One thing that struck me, or at least that I thought about during that part of the conversation with Ryan Poles, is a lot of those teams that need that first pick for the selection, right, for a quarterback. Like, look at the Raiders. Like, if they don't make their move for an Aaron Rodgers, or like the Saints, they don't make their move for Derek Carr, because only one team can move on Derek Carr. One team can sign him to that massive extension that he may or may not be worth. Only one team can bring in like a Baker Mayfield. Like, only one team can bring in Jimmy Garoppolo. So certain teams are now pressed or pushed a bit to make decisions on the quarterbacks. Look at Josh McDaniels and the Raiders. They have the 7th overall pick, so obviously the first overall pick is in play, but there's also interest in like Jimmy Garoppolo in free agency. Like, if you can push them on that, now you know who your real trade partners are, come that first pick.
And the other thing, too, is I like the idea that it could set them up for free agency. The other thing it does, it sets them up to trade back again. Because we've talked about that trade back twice scenario. Mm-hmm. Probably easier to do it if you trade back once in March and then on draft night you trade back again.
Right. You
could also trade back up. But the thing is, we talked a lot this offseason about if they want to get a playmaker.
I'm just thinking of the movie Draft Day. I'm sorry.
Wasn't that what the Titans did the year
they traded
with Conklin?
Yeah, because they traded back.
They traded back to 15, and then they ended up taking Conklin at 8.
Yeah. So I think, like, we've talked a lot about wide receiver. If you want a impact wide receiver, you have to trade for him. There aren't any in free agency. In the draft, you're taking a shot at a guy. So, and the Bears right now don't really have a lot of draft capital to give up if they want to trade for a guy. I mean, they can give up future picks and what have you, but yeah, it would put them in much better position for the start of the new league year to be able to do that.
Well, that's spending then, right? The one reason you would trade the first pick, say the Raiders again. They have Devontae Adams. Maybe they're going full rebuild or whatever capacity they want to go down that road, and you could now acquire Devontae Adams. That contract comes with them. Mm-hmm. You need to know that by the league year, so you know what you could spend in free agency again. You could move your priorities around. You could change your price parameters for certain positions because now a wide receiver is handled. Again, that's just the spitballing here, but that's one reason, based on this conversation, why Ryan Poles may want to force the issue a bit before free agency opens.
Right, and that same sort of logic can actually apply to a team trading up for the number 1 pick, too. Like, you just want to have all your options on the table. By trading up to 1, you might not have your guy, quote-unquote, figured out at this point, but now you can get your guy because you have the control. You have that first pick. So as much as Nick Caserio put some weird quotes out there today that I saw on social media that were confusing me, and he was probably doing a good job of doing that on purpose.
He's trying to build a team, Adam. It's not about the quarterback.
Right. Yeah.
He needs one, though.
Okay.
He only has one on the roster.
Right. You need a quarterback because you had one and then you traded him.
Yeah.
The Philadelphia Eagles are hiring Seahawks associate head coach and defensive assistant Sean Desai as their new defensive coordinator.
Congrats to Sean Desai.
Would you like to credit that news?
I saw it from Adam Schefter. Sorry, good call. Yes, ESPN's Adam Schefter.
Kevin Fishbain is breaking this.
ESPN's Adam Schefter is reporting that.
Okay.
The Philadelphia Eagles have announced it.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So there you go.
Good for Sean Desai.
Quite the rise since being Mark Trestman's defensive quality control coach.
Yeah. And Nagy's quality control coach for a year before he moved up to safeties.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he's their DC, and then he's associate head coach in Seattle.
Now he's DC.
And now he's the DC for a Super Bowl caliber team.
Yeah. All right, back to the show. Sorry about that.
I mean, that was part of the show.
Yeah.
I don't remember what you're talking about. But
I will say those last 15 minutes of chatter, and this is kind of the fun part of this season, is like when there's a Hoge and Jahns podcast on April 17th, and the first pick hasn't been traded yet. right?
Yeah.
I'm glad Poles said that because it did. I think all of us kind of antennas went up.
Yeah.
When he made that answer, because it did get us thinking about what we've been discussing, this whole idea of why it would make sense for them to move that pick early.
If I had to, maybe this is a good topic, how would you, if you had to predict, how this plays out over the next 2 months, my prediction I'm on right now is I think that pick gets traded, if not before April 1, sometime in the first week of April.
Yeah. I agree.
And actually now after today, I think it might even be sooner, or it could be
before the new league year. I still think it's after the new league year. If that's what,
so
the
maybe
deadline
I say
there.
Maybe by the league meetings in Phoenix, that last week of March. I could see that happening, and then I think if they make another trade, in terms of the draft pick. Because I could see them taking some of that draft capital and using – I do think the Bears are going to be in the market, and I've said this a couple times, of trading for a player and signing them to an extension. But you got to have the right capital to do it. And then I think if there's a second trade, like the double trade back scenario, it would happen on draft night. Then.
Yeah.
Well, what I think is interesting about this calendar is Ohio State, Alabama, and Kentucky pro days are the 3 days leading up to the league meetings. So if that –
Wait, say this schools again?
Alabama, Ohio State, Kentucky.
Okay.
I think are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of
Bryce
that
Young,
week.
C.J. Stroud,
yeah, I got
Will
it.
Levis.
So
good scheduling there.
Yeah.
NFL.
So if you
taking
are
over these pro days now.
if you're Chris Ballard and you just need that pro day, and I think a lot of these GMs maybe do want to see that pro day just to do the final dotting I's, crossing T's, and then you're at the league meetings with polls. You can not they need to be in person to do these things, but I do wonder if that creates calendar-wise an opportunity for it to be around then. Something to think about.
Yeah.
The other thing to think about is where do they draw that line in trading back, though?
Yeah.
I have this in my column tomorrow, today, whenever you're listening to this, is the Bears, they have a color code for their top picks, right? So there's blue, there's red, I think it's gold, orange, and then gray. So in that descending order, blue is obviously your top players. Where is that line drawn? Where is that argument of would you rather have that one blue player at 1 or 4, maybe not even at 4, or would you rather have 2 red players and an orange, or not a gray? Obviously, it's one of the worst players, but where do you draw that line for trading back? Because I think that's an important part of the discussion that they're starting to have more so now here at the Combine with the medicals and the interviews and with Matt Eberflus seriously involved.
Right, which is why you're not going to see that trade happen this week, because they do need – I think the board is starting to come together, but you need those medicals, you need those interviews. And like I mentioned, the polls said to us today on CHGO, he even mentioned, what if one of these players has a bad interview with us? That's part of the equation, so you can't trade back too far until you feel comfortable with how many blue players
what if you only have 4 blue players graded, and that's it?
Yeah.
The entire draft.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you want one of them compared to 2 red players?
Well, to me, that's you probably can't move back past 7 then. Because if you're thinking 3 QBs go in the top 7, which we don't necessarily even know at this point.
And they may not even be blue according to the Bears grades, but we all know here there's 2 drafts. There's quarterbacks and there's everybody else.
Right. And I don't know. I think those top guys, the top non-QB blue players are usually pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's tough because, one thing we always have to remember throughout this process is what, our guy Dane Brugler has as his draft rankings, what Daniel Jeremiah has is going to be different than all 32 teams. So right now it seems like there are 2 clear-cut non-quarterbacks and then a drop-off. Mm-hmm. And if the Bears believe in that, then you don't want to get out of the top 4, assuming they like one of those 2 guys, Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. But the Bears could have a completely different board. They could have the Texas Tech edge in there. They could have a Peter Skoronski up there, and they could feel good about maybe one of those guys being there. So I think it comes down to their board, and as you said, how many of those guys, because they're in this weird spot, right? They don't have stars on their team, but they also don't have like they need so many impact players. So how do you balance that? Do you take that Will Anderson, who could be, they like to say, the multiplier, or can you find a way to get 3-4 long-term starters out of this draft? I don't really know the answer. I've gone both ways. I mean, because like just coming back to the fact that you look at this team, who's the best player on the Bears?
Well, Justin Fields, but beyond, you need help.
Right?
You have one of the worst. You have by far the worst defensive line in all of football. It is not good whatsoever. You need 4 new starters, arguably.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think
not arguably, yes.
Yeah, and keep in mind that you just don't even have guys who, at their respective positions, rank well. Right? Like if Fields is their best player, the guy that every defense is scheming around, what is Fields right now? The 14th best quarterback in football? Don't quote me on or hold me to that. I just said it on a podcast, but I'm just spitballing.
On the record.
You
feel good about Fields?
Start doing Sandoz QB tiers for him.
Comes out later.
He builds it here.
I know. I saw him this morning at the Starbucks that didn't have coffee, which is a new thing.
They get a latte.
Let me repeat that. A Starbucks that didn't have coffee.
Drip coffee.
What? Yeah, you could get all the fancy drinks, but they didn't have literal coffee.
Not a good start for the J.W. Murray at Starbucks.
Combine might have hit them by surprise.
Now you see, maybe that's where things changed at the Combine. It went from a blue graded player to definitely gray.
I mean, and then the media room didn't have coffee. Now that I'm used to happening. That's normal. But the Starbucks
media room also didn't have internet.
Well, not this whole building didn't have internet. When we were trying to go live with an interview with the general manager.
Do you want to play
the other Roger Goodell? Pay your Xfinity bill.
He tripped over the wire and knocked it out. Let's play this other clip from Ryan Poles on the process of maybe drawing that line for trading back.
You have a team that needs so many pieces. Is that the ideal outcome for you, to trade the pick, get more assets?
Yeah, it just depends how far back. But yeah, we need a lot, and that gives us more opportunity to bring in more players. So it's a good situation to be in for where our club is. But at the same time, when I talk about where guys are on the draft chart, if we have someone that's so high and in a special category that says, you know what, this guy's going to affect our team both from a culture standpoint and also from a game day standpoint, then that might be the best thing to do as well. But in a vacuum, moving back gives you more opportunities to hit more players and continue to add to the core of this team.
Okay, I know this is going to sound weird, but hear me out. Mm-hmm. The word that Ryan Poles used the most today was "but."
You need some sleep, man.
Because every time he kind of and I totally get it, and I understand what he's doing. He's just like, what he just said right there. Like he has that but at the same time, we got to keep that open.
So we're laughing about it like we're 9-year-old boys, but
Justin Fields. The plan for now is Justin Fields to be the starter, but so he's doing his job as general manager that he has to keep all these options open.
Amazingly, that is not the best drop created on a show I've done today with the word but, because earlier I said every prospect has a but.
I mean, that's not wrong in any.
But that's
yeah. But I was also referring to BUT, not double T.
My 9-year-old son Ryan is loving this part of the conversation right now. Dad's saying "but" again.
It's true.
Ryan Poles is the one saying "but."
Yes.
Okay.
But you're right.
We've always been very mature on the show, and I like that. There were a lot of buts today.
Definitely.
Did I derail this thing?
No, I think we're right on
point.
But
it's part of the old.
It's you're closing the door and keeping it a little bit open. I just think the butts was maybe
you're playing the game.
It speaks to we just expanded our listenership to the 9-year-old demographic.
Well, I think if we're now getting away from all the buts, you want to give everybody the impression that everything's on the table for you, right?
Yeah,
butts included.
You went back to it. You could.
Oh, this show is so stupid.
It's draft season. It's silly season.
It is,
You know?
and the reality, and this goes back to I was talking to Joniak like right before polls came down this morning, and I was like, you know what the weird thing is? This is the most important offseason like the Bears have ever had. The amount of stuff that's about to happen in the next couple months is going to be insane. I don't have that many questions for this guy today.
Yeah.
Because it's all just like total speculation right now.
Well, the other thing, too, is a lot of times at this press conference, we have some specific personnel things to ask about, like with players.
Yeah, like
contract. You got guys who are going to be free agents or guys who you think are going to be. I was surprised. I didn't plan to ask about it. I was surprised nobody asked about Cody Whitehair.
Yeah.
I think that would just be, and maybe he wouldn't give us an answer, but I think he gave us. It seems like Eddie Jackson's not going anywhere.
Right?
That was a pretty concrete
I don't remember a but in that one.
There was no but in that one.
But
although Flus made it sound like he might not be ready for the offseason program.
Yeah, like where he's at
true.
right now.
Yeah. There's a lot of right nows today, too.
So Cody Whitehair would be the guy, right, you'd ask about out of anybody else in the roster. David Montgomery was asked about, didn't really get much of an answer. I think it's pretty clear Montgomery's going to get to test.
I didn't
Test the market and come back.
I mean, Cody Whitehair was definitely not somebody I was expecting to talk about on this podcast, but I have been thinking about this. The situation the Bears are in, I don't – like on any other team, he might look like a logical cap casualty, but like they're not up against the cap.
They're not up against the cap, and they don't have anybody to play the position. I think
and he's a team captain, and you keep trading and losing all your team captains. Like
trading all your
at
team
some
captains.
point, don't you want these guys in the building to help you? Like to me, Cody Whitehair still has value, even if he ends up like you end up signing other guys, you end up drafting other guys, and maybe by September, you end up. Maybe he's a backup even at that point. I don't know, but like, what did they say? $4 million or whatever it is, or did I have that wrong?
So it's more if it's a post-June first cut.
But they're not in a position where they need to save that.
No, I'm with you,
point.
and like I think that could be. Look, it could be like what they did with Charles Leno and Tevin Jenkins, which turned out to be a mistake. Like I thought that year, the plan would have been you go into camp, you let them compete, and then if you think Jenkins is your guy at left tackle, then you cut Leno because they didn't need to.
Right.
But they cut him right away, and then Jenkins got hurt. But I think with this one, it's similar. Like you can bring in guys. If you don't bring in a clear-cut replacement, then you let Cody Whitehair compete for the job. And then if you find a guy from the draft who looks great or a free agent who looks great, then you can cut him in the summer.
Yeah, the salary cap situations and like the long-term prospects are just they feel different right now, right?
I just want to throw an addendum on what I just said.
Oh.
Because is Cody Whitehair the type of guy you have so much respect for that if you're not sure he's going to be part of your plans or you're confident he's not going to be part of your plans, you cut the cord early to give him an opportunity to really choose
where he
the
goes before.
best opportunity for him as opposed to letting it play out.
I mean, I would say, yes, he qualifies as one of those players, but do they know what their plans are at that position? You know what I mean? Like, so I agree with you. I think your original point, which is like they didn't need to be in such a hurry to cut Leno. They don't need to be in such a hurry right now. Now, they were way more up against the cap when they cut Leno. You know what would have been nice? Not redundantly signing Andy Dalton for $10 million.
Redundant.
You already had Nick Foles on the team. What were you doing?
Well, Eberflus was asked about the offensive line today, and he said it's as like last year where he made it seem like every spot is still open. Which
yeah, it just might be coach speak, though.
It might be, but, what
like
spot?
he was given an opportunity to use coach speak. That's how I kind of viewed it.
For every spot on the
offensive
line?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, the GM went out of his way to praise Tevin Jenkins playing guard on our show earlier.
I mean, you'd like to think that they have their left tackle and they have their right guard.
That was actually an interesting answer. I asked him, is there anybody that was like that you evaluated with the Chiefs that when you came to the Bears, like, proved you wrong?
Oh, that's a good question.
And he was like, not really. And then he was like, but he basically said he didn't think, or the Chiefs didn't think, that Tevin Jenkins could play guard, which sort of surprised me because the assumption always was if he can't play tackle, he could be a guard.
Right.
But I think that helps explain what was going on in August when it was like iffy if he would even be on the team, and you're like, well, why don't you just try him at guard before you get rid of him? Which is ultimately what they did. And his answer was like, now he looks like he's a really good guard. He could be a really good guard.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
Well, the other thing he said about the offensive line today, Poles, was some guys did not play in their positions last year. And I think he's talking about one guy, which is Lucas Patrick.
Yes.
Because that's another interesting part of the next couple months is he's in the last year of his contract. It's not a very cost-prohibitive thing. I mean, they could save some cap space if they cut him. But that was the guy that they were so excited about playing center. And then he gets the injury in training camp, starts off at guard. The day he moves to center, he gets hurt again. He's out for the year. So is that, if you're reading the tea leaves, which is all we do right now, we overanalyze this stuff, is that Ryan Poles telling us we really want to see what we have in Lucas Patrick at center because we think we have something there, so we don't need to bring in a new center via the draft or free agency?
I think the smart move would be
competition.
To draft a young center
Yes.
that can either develop behind Lucas Patrick or push Lucas Patrick to eventually be the starter, maybe even as soon as week 1, but perhaps later in the season. That's how I would handle it, because you have no proof that Lucas Patrick is even going to be available to you.
Right. I mean, they need a right tackle.
Yes,
for sure.
Although congrats to Larry Borom on getting engaged.
Congrats to Larry Borom on getting engaged. And they need an interior offensive lineman at minimum. Yeah. They need 2 starters at those spots.
Well, that's why it goes back to the Cody Whitehair conversation. There's no guarantee in what you can get in free agency. What if teams outbid you for certain players? What if a certain player that you really, really covet wants to go play for, let's call it a winner, a team that could be like the Bengals or something, for example, a team that's built to win right now as opposed to a team that's potentially developing into a winner. So there's some unknowns.
And you hear Poles and Eberflus talk about the guys they look for. Those qualities all still fit Cody Whitehair.
Yeah.
Right? So, and the other thing, too, is, Whitehair played hurt for the last half of the season last year. Get him back healthy, see what he can do.
Yeah.
We went from Butts to Cody Whitehair.
You just want to say Butts again.
You did.
We hadn't said it in like 3 minutes.
Yeah. Was there anything from Flus at all that stood out to you? The one thing that I saw, because I wasn't actually over there during that, was him saying that he had done 60 free agent evaluations. I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and Pat, our good friend Patrick Finley, asked him about, does he grade those guys the same way he grades Bears players with the hits philosophy? And he said he does.
Yeah.
So we know how intense that is. And
he said himself that every player is built to play for us.
Right, and Eberflus is here. Like, he likes to be very involved in this stuff because of what you just said, Jahns, that he wants to make sure these guys are guys that are going to fit what he's implementing, which is important. I thought that he's generally been pretty honest about Fields, and I thought the thing you mentioned about Justin Fields needs to do a better job taking what the defense gives him. And you got to do a better job in first and second now, which mirrors kind of what Justin Fields himself was saying during Super Bowl week, which is I need to be more consistent on the shorter throws.
Yes.
And I think that it's good. I think that they're all on that same page because that is something that needs to get better and can help unlock other things as well.
Like every time they mention like something specific like that with Fields, can't you just see their plan already coming to fruition for him?
Yeah.
Like the offseason, or if they've already presented some of this to him, like they're moving forward with them. Like if you're a GM, if you're Chris Ballard and you're reading the quotes, like that would stand out to me. Like, oh, they've already talked to Justin Fields about this, right? I've been in buildings before. I know how Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus work. That stands out to me.
It's better than the Packers where they just don't talk to their quarterback or vice versa.
Well, when you go into a cave for an unspecified amount of time.
The guy was in a golf tournament 2 weeks ago on TV with people everywhere.
How long would you guys last in the cave?
I think I could do a day.
0 minutes. I have no desire to even think about that.
You could do a day.
What's the point?
I don't know if there's a point, but if I'm challenged, I could do a day.
I don't think I could do an hour.
So what?
I would need to check Twitter.
I got to be honest. This totally falls under the eye roll and I don't care that an Aaron Rodgers thing. That I'm just like. So I really haven't even read about this, or I just know he went in his darkness retreat. What's in the cave? How does this work?
A bed.
Okay.
A toilet.
Okay.
And a meditation rug or something.
And lots of drugs.
No.
What else is happening?
There's they slide his meals through a
Wait, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Have you seen Lord of the Rings?
Which one?
Not really. I'm not a Lord of the Rings guy.
Like one of the first ones where
I'm aware of what it is.
They're all like in the Hobbit houses. Like
Okay.
Built into like little hills.
Okay, that's make-believe. This is an NFL quarterback.
Yes, not.
But sometimes operates in a little bit of a make-believe type,
Yes.
Yes. So this NFL starting quarterback, who happens to be one of the best of all time, who may or may not be his team's starting quarterback next year, just did this. He lived in a Hobbit cave.
Okay.
For a few
Didn't he
days.
come out a couple days early?
I'm not sure.
That's what I heard. He didn't even make it 4 days. He quit.
He failed.
He's a quitter. I don't know. I don't even know why I brought up Aaron Rodgers, but
that's
fun.
part of. You don't think the Packers are down here looking for some sort of clarity on that?
They might be looking for a different quarterback.
Exactly.
From what I've heard. That does not seem to be a good situation.
Your guy Jordan Love is going to be the.
Yeah, okay. Again, for the 900th time, if they love Jordan Love, they would have played Jordan Love at the end of the year.
They love Love.
No, they only like Love.
Love and butts. That's what this podcast should just be titled.
I don't generally have NFL Network on like all the time, so I'm sure they do play a bunch of random games at times.
Yeah.
We've got Lions Commanders on right now.
That's an interesting choice.
I don't remember anything about that game.
Wentz is playing quarterback.
Yeah, was it like a
Looks like
exciting
a good rush for Aiden
finish?
Hutchinson. Good play for Aiden Hutchinson right here.
Oh, the down goes Wentz.
Are we sure this isn't like an Aiden Hutchinson documentary video or something?
Carson
No,
Wentz
I
was
think
just
it's
released.
I think it's just the
Oh,
game.
it's just a game.
Yeah.
Got to fill programming, I guess.
The Bears could use an Aiden Hutchinson-like player.
Yes. He's
Yes.
very good. He's the one defensive player the Bears played all year that could stop Justin Fields on the zone read game.
Yeah, he wrecked that game.
He could stay on the handoff or he could go outside. He's the only one who could chase him down. Very impressive player. He's going to be a problem for many years. Good job, Lions.
And the Bears got to find a guy like that.
Yeah. Well, they had one. They traded him. His name was Khalil
They
Mack.
got to find guys who could stop a guy like that.
Yeah. They need to find a lot of guys.
Which is something the GM admitted today. Hey, if you're like me, you hate the hassle of trying to figure out what to wear. Who has time for that? I need clothes that are versatile, that I can wear on my shows, but also wear when I get home or out to dinner with my wife. And that's where Rhone comes in, because men's closets were due for a radical reinvention, and Rhone stepped up to the challenge. They have the Commuter Collection, which is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible set of products known to man. And here's why. Because Rhone helps you get ready for any occasion with the Commuter Collection, offering the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos. You never have to worry about what to wear when you have the Rhone Commuter Collection. The comfortable 4-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way, from your commute to your work, or hey, even 18 holes of golf, which is coming up here, golf season in Chicago. It'll be here next week, basically, and then go away for another month, but then, come back all summer, and that'll be nice. It's time to feel confident without the hassle. With Rhone's wrinkle release technology, wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the products. It's that easy. I have a pair of pants from Rhone. I have a shirt that I love to wear. And it's true. I mean, if they're even slightly wrinkled, you just wear them for a little bit and the wrinkles are gone. The Commuter Collection can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to Rhone.com/Adam and use promo code Adam to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/Adam. Use code Adam. It's time to find your corner office comfort. Upgrade your closet with Rhone and use Adam to save 20% off at Rhone.com/Adam.
What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Is it checking up on your credit score? Didn't think so. At Chime, that's exactly what they do. With the secure Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card, you can start to build credit with your own money. Chime reports your payments to credit bureaus to help you build credit over time. The members see an increase of 30 points on average. All of this with no annual fees, large security deposits, or credit checks to apply. So start your journey with Chime. Sign up takes only 2 minutes and doesn't affect your credit score. Get started at chime.com/Adams. That's chime.com/Adams. One more time, that's chime.com/Adams. Adams. The Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card is issued by Stride Bank North America pursuant to a license from Visa USA Chime checking account and a $200 qualifying direct deposit required to apply for the secured Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card. Regular on-time payment history can have a positive impact on your credit score. Impact the score may vary, and some users' scores may not improve. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees may apply except at MoneyPass ATMs and a 7-Eleven or any Allpoint or Visa Plus Alliance ATM.
If we're good on the football, I actually want to end this podcast on a completely different sport.
Curling.
No, although I could do another 30 minutes on that. Jahns, your thoughts on Patrick Kane getting traded to the Rangers?
It's major news for it's all Bears listeners here, but Chicago fans for the most part. I mean, that's
The Kane thing is like it tugs at your heart a little bit.
yeah.
At least it does for me.
Yeah,
It's like,
I mean,
holy crap.
That
like
is a superstar, one of the best Chicago athletes. And I know, look, he had his problems off the ice. I get it, but
that was
just
a long time ago,
yes,
though, and he
but
got
yeah.
his shit together.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And he won 3 championships. There's going to be a trophy. I mean, a statue of him outside United Center, wherever they play in the future. Him and Jonathan Toews will both get that. Their jerseys will hang in the rafters. And Jonathan Toews right now is out with long COVID. It's the end of an era. This is it. This is the final. Like, speaking of closing doors, this is it. This is the end of that Blackhawks dynasty finally.
I was in college when Patrick Kane debuted.
Wow.
Yeah.
2007.
Yeah.
I guess I was too. Barely.
I remember,
Yeah.
and then the playoff, it was the second season when they had the run to the conference finals against the Red Wings.
Yes.
And I was living in New York at the time, and I remember, if you're like, when you live in a different city, your loyalty to your hometown teams grows a little bit. So I remember just like, and that was the same year you had the Bulls-Celtics series with the Joakim Noah dunk. So that's going on at like the same time. And it was like, it was one of those things like, I wish I was home in Chicago, but it was kind of fun to go to bars in New York and like, and root for those teams. But I just remember, like, it's crazy the way all sports go in these days, that's how long Kaner's been part of this team.
But here's what's wild to me. Isn't he still 32?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he started at 18.
He's not that old.
16. No, he's 34.
Okay.
16 years on the Hawks. 1,161 games. 446 goals. And this is a Hall of Fame hockey player, one of the best American-born players ever.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared to talk about him on this podcast, but for someone who covered him in the earliest days of his career, like the 2010 Cup, so many vivid memories of what he would do on and off the ice. The parties, like off it, but then on the ice, it was a party too. He would make plays that few players in the NFL, here I am still, NFL writer, in the NHL could do. Like he would, like players would gravitate towards him, and the puck would gravitate towards him, and somehow he would make these beautiful passes. He changed that organization.
Yeah.
Speaking of like changing teams and finding winning players, blue players, like Patrick Kane was that. He was the first overall pick too.
Yeah.
And you know this well, Jahns, because you were covering it, but the hype that came with him when he started, and he lived up to it.
Yes.
It's just so hard to do these days in sports, to have a guy, and I mean, Taves did it too, but for Kane to live up to it and then have this career go so long, and he's still
good.
A good enough player that the Rangers really obviously wanted him. I'm sure other teams wanted him.
There
He just
was
didn't
a
want to
dude
go
in the stands at Madison Square Garden already
saw this.
wearing a Kane jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're excited about him.
He still brings that
I can't,
buzz.
why? He was only a second-round pick.
Who was?
Blows my mind.
Who?
That's apparently what the trade was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Second-round pick
he's
that could
34
become
now.
a 1 and a 4. If I don't know what
They got to make the
conditional
conference finals.
They could do.
Rangers,
Well,
yeah.
here, the Hawks don't have much leverage. Didn't have much
they
leverage
did,
in
yeah.
this. Jonathan Toews is out of the picture right now. Now Patrick Kane, it was his turn. I'm sure this was very hard for him too.
Yeah. I'll say this though, it has sucked watching the Hawks just not be good for the last few years. It'll be kind of cool to see Kane potentially be playing deep into the playoffs again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which we all sort of miss. That part of it I'm happy about. Just the opportunity to see Kane potentially in the Stanley Cup final again. Even if it's on a different team, we get to see that.
It's like watching Robbie Gould.
Yeah. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, especially the Packers game in the playoffs a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
okay, now I'm going to hit you with another hypothetical because I still can't believe this hasn't come up. If I told you right now Robbie Gould wants to sign with the Bears, would you cut Cairo Santos and sign Robbie Gould?
Is Robbie a free agent?
Yes.
He is.
That's why I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet.
Wow, it's surprising. It says a lot. I mean, well, I guess he had the extra point difficulties, but it says a lot about Cairo Santos that has not come up.
Right, because he's been incredibly solid. The extra points this year got dicey. I will say overall, you don't have quite the same certainty with Cairo Santos as you did a year ago.
No.
But that would still be quite a tough. But also, Cairo's entering the final year of his contract.
Yeah. Here, I'll ask special teams guru, is at this point in Robbie Gould's career, does he want to play as much as he loves Chicago? Does he still have a house?
Yeah, he has
Yes.
a house
Still-
there.
He's
This
in
is-
Chicago
He
right
was at
now.
the he was at the Northwestern
Yeah.
game last month.
Yeah, Chicago's
Does he want to play 8 games at Soldier Field?
Oh, I see.
I know he knows
Yeah.
that field and that stadium better than any kicker ever in terms of how to handle it, and I don't doubt at all that he would be effective there and still be a good kicker. I just wonder if at this point in his career, A, does he want to kick at Soldier Field 8 games a year? B, does he want to play for a team that's going to be picked to finish third at best in their division?
He has been kicking in quite a few playoff games recently.
Yeah.
And the walk-off winner at Lambeau last year.
He wants that Super Bowl.
Right.
I could see the appeal to coming home because, like I said a couple times already, Chicago is home for him and his family and his kids. But at this point, we know Robbie. He wants that title.
Well, that's why I asked the question the way I did. If he was
Yeah.
knocking on Ryan Poles' door right now, I want to sign with you.
Yeah.
Would you make that switch? As much as I like Cairo Santos, I think I would. Robbie's been so solid.
Yeah.
Still, I don't think he's close to being
He'd
done.
be highly motivated and
Those
all that.
kickers still play another 5 years if he wants to. I don't know. I think it's just an interesting
Something to think
conversation.
about.
It's not. By the way, it's also not really fair to Cairo because Cairo hasn't really done anything to even deserve that type of conversation.
And if Robbie did not have the connection to Chicago, we wouldn't be
It wouldn't come
discussing
up,
it.
but he
But
does,
it's-
and he still lives there. And I just
Yeah.
I find that sort of hypothetical very interesting.
I'm watching the All-City wardrobe change here.
Oh,
Going from, it looks like, Denver to Phoenix.
yeah, that's how that works. Yeah.
These are the things that we get to see here at Radio Row at the Combine.
So, yeah,
Behind the scenes.
it's not as crazy as the Super Bowl where Mark Carman was just yelling random things at random. Did you hear the story with Joe Montana?
No.
So, if you picture this wall right here, which people watching on YouTube apologize you can't see, but there's like a barrier right here, and then there's a walkway right there. So at the Super Bowl, that's how it was, but it was way more people, and you just have the most crazy celebrities walking around. And we're this far from that wall. Joe Montana's walking right there, and Carm just goes. Like, I'm probably mid-sentence talking about something with the Bears. And he goes, oh, Joe Montana's over there. Arguable GOAT. Arguable GOAT. I go, did you just yell arguable GOAT at Joe Montana?
Well, of all the things to yell at Joe Montana,
Did he acknowledge the
He
arguable?
looked. He, looked, and I'm like, you just yelled arguable GOAT at Joe Montana. And he's like, he is. It's like a compliment. Everybody forgets about Joe Montana.
it's surprising Carm doesn't have more restraining orders against him.
Well, then Bruce Arians walked by, and he goes, you should have been the coach of the Bears. And then Bruce turned around and was like, acknowledged it, and then he came down and sat down with us. We did a whole interview with him, and it was great.
Did he agree? Should have been the coach of
Yes.
the Bears?
Yes. He was like, I was at the hotel down the street.
Yeah.
They didn't want to change the defense. Basically, it's like
And he wanted to, yeah.
he wanted to change the defense, and because I think would he have been bringing Todd Bowles with him? I think would have been what he. I think he said that. I
Yeah.
think that's what he wanted to do, and
The blitzing style.
they didn't want to change the defense, and we never got to see Bruce Arians and Jay Cutler together.
That would have been fun.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Memories.
Well, we got dinner plans and things to do, so
We'll be back on Thursday.
good stuff.
Big show Thursday.
So Thursday, we are doing a crossover episode with the Athletic Football Show, Robert Mays and Nate Tice. I'm excited about it. We're literally going to cross over the two
Right here.
podcasts, and we're
Chuck's going to have to zoom out this camera.
yeah. So it's going to be fun. That's coming up Thursday. Of course, all the coverage on the Athletic all week. You guys have everybody here, So nobody's got the combine covered like The Athletic.
It's true.
TheAthletic.com/Hoge and Jahns.
You guys have everybody here.
We have a lot of people here. We probably have too many people here, but it's good. Make sure you're checking out CHGO. We had the interview with Ryan Poles today and a fun show as well. We're here all week doing shows, so noon tomorrow. Check us out. We have shows every single day. We'll have some guests along the way. Maybe we'll have to pull you guys over there.
Okay.
Why not?
It's right there.
I kind of like being the YouTube chat guy once a week at CHGO.
You have a cult following.
Yeah,
He does.
I don't
chat
do very.
guy.
I don't do very much. I just hop in the chat to make fun of Nick Moriano after Iowa lost to Northwestern.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny that our producer Lawrence wasn't sure it was real Kevin Fishbain, because we have like random people that jump in the chat to pretend to be like Matt Nagy.
Yeah,
We've won.
I'm not at that level yet.
One recently is so we have a fake Kari Blessing game in the chat,
That's
which
fair.
is random.
That makes sense.
But whoever's doing that is hilarious and actually makes funny jokes while they're doing it. And so he was worried that it was a fake Kevin Fishbain situation.
No, that's
That was
usually
me.
real Kevin Fishbain.
Yep.
Yeah. No, he's real. He's here. All right. Well, make sure you're checking all that out all week. We will be here and excited about all the coverage. Excited for some dinners. Excited for some beverages. It's Combine Week. Maybe we'll get a little sleep along the way as well. Make sure you're following us on YouTube. Hit subscribe. Rate and review the pod if you're listening that way. And all of our merch is up at obviousshirts.com. We'll talk to you on Thursday.
See ya.